Welcome to tier list videos, where we today are going to be doing quite a lengthy one. This is all the expanded universe lines that Mattel has done. I am going to put some disclaimers before we get started. This is going from chronological order, going to Neon Racers first back in 2013. So this doesn't include the storytellers. That's not really, it's expanded universe, but it's derived from a book. That's something that Pixar had involvement with. This is all sidelines, except for the last 2 years, obviously, that Mattel just kind of created by themselves. Yeah, some of these have gotten books, but they've gotten books based off of these lines, not the other way around, where lines were created off of a book like the storytellers was. So that's your disclaimer right there. We have 17 different lines in total, yes. So there's 17 over the last 12 years, some good ones and some pretty bad ones. We're going to get into all of it as we get along with this video, but those are the small disclaimers. And one more, this does not include stuff like Racing Red, Pixar Fest, Disney 100, whatever you want to say, metallic releases, silvers. That does not count as expanding universe. Those are simply special versions of cars. They're not trying to make you think that this is an expansion of the timeline, headcanon, whatever. These are like actual trying to fill in some gaps along the way that happens in universe. The special edition cars are just simply special edition with some nice special paint finish to them, you know? So all those things out the way, we can get into this. We have elite, amazing, but not elite, but amazing. Like, it was still really good. Maybe just had like one or two like minor issues. Okay, like, yeah, you're average, but you could have been worse. Very subpar, which means you could have been a lot better, but you really just went below like what you had potential. And why did it exist? Basically, yeah, why do you exist? I don't know why you were created. You had no necessity of being a thing, and you should have never been a thing. So let's get right into this. Neon Racers, to start us off, this debuted in 2013. Now, the Neon Racers, unfortunately, and this is a big just fault on the Neon Racers, they did not finish the line. You didn't get Jeff, Francesco, Carlo Veloso, or Rip Klutchgonski. And a lot of those are pretty significant, let alone, like, I think if you miss any of the World Grand Prix racers and that kind of focus line, you're already going into some issues. And another thing I really didn't like about the Neon Racers is that they were just neon versions of their World Grand Prix versions. It wasn't an actual design overhaul. There wasn't some new logos. There wasn't like none of that. It was their base paint jobs, but they were neonified. They had darker tones and they had like highlights to them on an outline sense to make them stand out. And those are my two big problems with the Neon Racers line, but I do still like it a lot more than others. Like, I kind of miss the days when the Neon Racers was like the bottom of the barrel expectation for sidelines. But nowadays, Neon Racers is probably like a middle pack. I'm gonna go with okay on the Neon Racers. I do still like the concept. I like that it's low grounded. I just wish that they completed them all, and I just think doing above and beyond like they did for the ones that came afterwards. Granted, this wasn't a T-Rock, so I kind of understand why they didn't go for that, but like the Neon Racers really should have been the start of the T-Rock in my opinion, so you could have had more design tweaks and then it would have been higher up on this list. But it's still really cool, and spoiler alert, I still think it's better than the Glow Racers. It was handled a lot better. I just wish they did that they finished the World Grand Prix Racers, and I just think they look cooler than the Glow Racers. They still do, in my opinion. So the Neon Racers is okay, but could have been better, but could have also been worse. Next, we have the Ice Racers. This is a line where they actually finished it from start to finish. We got all World Grand Prix racers, and we even got the bonus ones. Like, you got Frosty. The Neon Racers has Frosty too. That was definitely a nice compliment. Ice Racers had Frosty too, and they had Vitaly Petrov, who was the host of this race. So he came out in the first wave of everything, but I'm still tolerating that because you finished a core set of characters first. So the other ones are bonuses. They aren't there at the expense of missing some crucial figures, some crucial characters. And that's key. And that's something that you're going to really see. It's just the downfall of some of these lines. But the Ice Racers is an elite line. This is how you do a line, guys. Two things. In the sidelines, it wasn't in the main line, it didn't obstruct the main line, it knew its place, it had its boundaries, and they finished it all within a year, chop chop, done. And they all, overall, I think had really good designs. Some I think were slight misses, but I'm willing to like look past that. The only thing I really have a big issue with execution wise, maybe like some of the snow particle detailing is a little too just plastered on. Could have been a little bit more realistic, but I still think all of them looked amazing. A lot of the colors meshed well, and again, they didn't just make World Grand Prix versions of them icy. Like, it was an actual design overhaul for some of them, and that's what you really want out of a sideline. And it's low grounded. They didn't put no wacky things that they started getting into with Cars 3's era of expanding universe lines. The ice racers, I just think, ticked off every box that I could possibly ask for it, and for that, it's an elite line, guys. This is, you're not going to get much better than the ice racers, but I think there might be a couple in here that maybe beat it out. Speaking of that, you know, people say speak of the devil, speak of the angel, carbon racers. Guys, this line was the next one in line from the ice racers. It kind of started in the fall of 2015 going into 2016, but they did finish the ice racers before they went on to the carbon racers, which is something they used to be good at. Now they don't know what to do. They start things before they finish other things, and they make a big clusterfuck out of things. Now we have the carbon racers. This line, again, they finished it. We had all the World Grand Prix racers. We even got the Frosty, which is really nice. And something that really won me over with the carbon racers is a lot of them actually got new wings. The World Grand Prix racers, some of them had new wings, not all of them, but some. They had sick looking wings, and they knew how to mesh, for the most part, the carbon design with the regular design. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little, except for some of them, but the carbon racers overall was such a good concept. Again, low grounded, it makes sense, hosted by Max Chanel, kind of going off of what Cars 2 kind of teased at the end with Jeff Gravett saying, oh, we should do this every year. That's what I think really helped the T-Rock, is that it is kind of foreshadowed in Cars 2's epilogue sequence, which is a really nice way to make it feel proper expanding universe, an easy headcanon. So Carbon Racers is going in elite, and I'm actually going to put it above the Ice Racers. I would put a slight execution toward Carbon Racers' favor over the Ice Racers, but both of them are elite sidelines. This is how you do a sideline and make it work. Carbon Racers looked amazing, and I really liked all the carbon elements and how they weren't just kind of smooth. A lot of them actually, you can almost like feel carbon texture on some of them, I stress. But even McQueen, you know, had a complete design overhaul. Like, all of them just looked amazing. I really love the Carbon Racers line, and it was something innocent, but still enough to, you know, be worthy, if that makes sense. Carbon Racers is an elite line, guys. And what followed that is the Carnival Cup. This one straight up was a 2016 thing. Now, this is where it gets a little complicated, because this is the first time they actually started the Carbon Racers. They actually started the Carnival Racers before finishing the Carbon Racers, but they did finish the Carbon Racers, which definitely was not ideal, but they did still finish the Carnival Racers. We didn't get Frosty, but I'm okay with that. Like, it's disappointing, but Frosty's always a bonus with these lines. I get it. Cars 3 was on the horizon. So the Carnival Racers, I think they could have been almost a little more. I like the concept. It goes well with the other T-Rock lines, and I think there was potential there. I think my only problem with this line is they almost didn't go wacky enough for my liking. Like, I feel like some of them just aren't different enough. Like Miguel Camino, I'm thinking of Nigel Gearsley. I just really don't think they were as different as they could have been, and it really kind of fell short for me in that way. But I still like that they finished it. Some of the features are really cool. I love how some of them have like borderline glitter designs on some of the decals and stuff. And it was a nice line. Carlo honestly looks really good. I mean, she should for being the host. But yeah, it was a nice line. I'm going to put it in okay. I still think it's better than the Neon Racers, but I think the Carnival Cup just almost was not Carnival enough, if that makes sense. They just didn't go all the way. Not like to the extent that I feel like they should have, but they're still solid. They're still tolerable as a line. The Carnival Cup was still really nice. I did like some of the cars, and like I said, they finished them all. And that's probably like the last time you're going to hear me say they actually finished something. Next, we have the Road Trip series. This came out in the summer of 2016, which was really convenient. It was the 10-year anniversary of Cars 1 at the time. Guys, this is another elite line, and you're going to see a common theme here. Notice how a good chunk of these early lines, they actually knew what they were doing. The Road Trip line is not only elite, I think it is the best expanded universe line by a mile that they've ever done. This was the first one that was townie focused, and besides Lizzie, they were going to do her, it got canceled unfortunately, but after that, they did all the townies, guys. They completed them. And you even got bonus ones, like Minnie and Van. You got a Mac. When have you ever seen a Mac in an expanded universe line by Mattel? It was metal and everything. It wasn't like, you know, plastic ones like the Glow Racers Mac that you can probably still find at Target to this day. It was metal. It was a brand new Mac. And they weren't there at the expense of missing some townies. It's not like you had Van and Minnie in there, but like for some reason, I don't know, Flo was absent or Sarge was absent. You had the core group of characters that you should be start and finishing, and then you get your bonuses. Minnie and Van was a really cool bonus. Albeit some of them barely snuck out there, like Luigi and Guido, super rare, super scarce. Red, super rare, super scarce. But they still did a phenomenal job. I love how low grounded they were. This wasn't a line where you had to slap some gimmicky Road Trip logo on their hoods and like do alternate design overhauls like that. It's not necessary. They're going on a nice simple road trip. And so they just have the necessities. Maybe some of them just have like luggage, or like all of them had tow hitches. Some got trailers, some didn't. It was a nice sense of diversity, but low groundedness. And they got them all, except for Lizzie. Poor Lizzie. Always getting canceled, I swear. But yeah, the Road Trip line was such a hit. This is how you do an expanded universe line by far. I don't have a single complaint about the Road Trip series. And this isn't really a complaint. It's just an unfortunate event. Lizzie got canceled. That's the only thing. But again, that's not really enough to like put this any lower. No way. This is such an elite line, guys. This is how you do an expanded universe line. And don't settle for less with what Mattel's putting out nowadays when this should be the standard. Road Trip line, how it was handled and everything, perfection. This is how it should be handled every single time. Now we get into Cars 3's expanded universe era. Yeah, this is where things got a little crazy. But we did start the Fireball Beach. It did keep the low groundness from the T-Rock and the Road Trip. But I think my problem with the Fireball Beach is they almost were too simple. I don't mind that they're just sandy version of the cars, but I also think they did too many, and they did like half the next gen fleet. I don't like how it was so next gen heavy. I feel like this is a line where it should have been stock car heavy instead. They put a Mater and Luigi and Guido here too. They were nice. I didn't mind those. They like, you know, like I said, this was before they started just slapping logos on cars, and I'm glad that they didn't do that for this line. But I also think they were too simple. Like, they just don't really feel all that fun to have them all because they look so similar to the regular versions, and that just comes down to probably not changing the expressions on some of them. I feel like altering some expressions here and there would have really helped this line, and just making it more stock car heavy than next gen heavy, because it just didn't really feel like right to me. I don't know. Fireball Beach is still a location from Cars 3, and on that basis, it's really nice. I like when things are an easy headcanon and not like just, okay, you clearly just pulled it out of your ass, or it's just a gimmick that, you know, I really can't get behind, like it's just to sell some toys. This actually kind of fits. It's just a little too simple for my liking, so it's gonna go in okay. It's okay. That's pretty much as best I can say. It's okay. It is not something that I feel great completing because they're just almost too basic, and they're not really the kind of characters that they really should have focused on. I don't really think Next Gen Heaviness was the play here. Next, we have the Thomasville Racing Legends. This one is definitely a step up from the Fireball Beach races, 100%. Again, in roots of connections that you had from Cars 3, Thomasville Speedway. And I love this. It was an amazing sideline. I love the connection where you even have some releases, and then they were some of the legends or retro races that were being honored by the stock cars. Like, I think, let me pull an example. I think Parker Breakston was Caleb Worley or Floyd Morgan, whichever one is the green and white one that got released in 2021. So it was almost a nice foreshadow in that sense as well. My biggest problem with this line, though, and why it's not going to go in Elite, is that some of the character selections were just weird. This one actually did go for stock car heaviness. That was a great decision. But not H.J. Hollis, Herb Kerbler, very random. He's the only next gen in there, besides Storm, which means Cruz wasn't even in there. Tomica did a Cruz and Storm. Cruz as Luis Nash, mind you. And also the fact that we didn't get Junior Moon or River Scott in any of the racers' designs are so weird. Like, what they really should have done, give me Bobby Swift honoring Junior Moon or Brick Yardley honoring River Scott. That would have been such an amazing connection. And they just didn't go for that. Some of the racers were just too background. They didn't go for some characters they really should have gone for. And I think that's what kind of let this line down a little bit. It's still an amazing line. I absolutely love all the releases because the connection is so awesome that way. But it's not going in Elite just on that basis that the character selection, I think, was actually just not the best. It had a lot of missed potential, but it is going in Amazing. Next, we have the Mud Racers. This is the first time they started introducing some wackiness to the cars, and I don't really think it worked here. I think the Mud Racers just would have been better if they were simple, like, you know, I'll give an example since I have this car right here with me. Parker Brixton, like, if he was in this line, he would have had the monster, like, mega off-road muddy wheels and the barricades, and, like, he'd have suspension, and also some of the execution on the eyelets and stuff wasn't the great. That was just Vietnam just being bad. But I think what would have benefited if it was just a Parker Brixton with, like, matte finish, and it had, like, mud detailing. So it's almost like if they were in the Demolition Derby, but like if they were in the Demolition Derby, not if this was like some sort of fantasy. And I also think maybe some character selections kind of let this one down too. Like Miss Fritter and RV are not suiting up that much for this. You know what I mean? Not even like really Mater. Just do simple versions. I would have loved just a low grounded regular Miss Fritter just with some mud. You can even like say it's a Cars 3 variant. Same with RV. Mater would make sense too. I just don't like how they weren't low grounded. They went a little too above and beyond for these, in my opinion. And I think I did like a lot of the stock cars, but it's just, they just did not look right. I don't really think it clicked. It looked too goofy for my liking. So the Mud Racers are going in very, very subpar. Borderline, why did it exist? But the only reason why I'm not going to say that is because it is trying to be based off of a concept you saw in Cars 3. So, yeah. Drag racing. You thought Mud Racing was bad. Drag racing is even worse. Why did this one exist? I don't even know where to start with the drag racers. They just don't even look like it's how the characters would look. It just feels like a fan art come to life or something like that. And the releases were so weird. They only did like 6. Brick Yardley being the only stock car besides McQueen. And just the wacky wheels in the back, it's just like not how they would look at all. I don't even understand why we're drag racing all of a sudden. It's not even a concept that can be pulled from the movies. Like, it was that first one. I just don't like it, guys. It was so weird. Like, it feels like if another toy company just kind of did some sort of weird collaboration or something. It doesn't really fit. It doesn't work. It just was kind of stupid, in my opinion. They don't feel collectible, and I feel like that's something some of these expanded universe lines should feel still. They should feel collectible. This doesn't. These might as well, in my opinion, have just been plastic toys. Like, you don't have to go all the way to make them metal. Just make them like a plastic thing, kind of like the stunt racers, you know, or something like that. And it could be a lot more better because they didn't need to be all this. I don't know, guys. It just, something about them just looks so off, and I do not like it at all. And Rocket Racing is no exception. You guys can see a little bit of a trend here. I did not like the XRS in general. The XRS comprised of Mud Racing, Drag Racing, and Rocket Racing. These were the 3. And that's another thing. I just think the XRS logos are so kind of stupid. Like, they just slap them on there and they're so obnoxious. It's not like a creative design overhaul or something like that. Like, yeah, it just was way too gimmicky. Just too fantastical for my liking. Too fantastical. Not a headcanon at all. I don't consider any of this stuff canon, whereas some of these I can kind of understand. But yeah, Rocket Racing. Now, the one thing, I actually will put Rocket Racing over Drag Racing, but it is still in why did it exist. And the only reason why I will put it above, I can give some benefit of the doubt that maybe after On the Road, it's the salt flats. Like, I know that wasn't like the intention. That could just be like a big coincidence, but like the Rocket Racing, I think almost would have been better if, number one, they went for a different approach with how they did them. And if it came out after On the Road, so people would think of it as almost salt flat versions of cars, and that actually would have been a decent connection also to promote Cars on the Road. Drag Racing is a little worse, but Rocket Racing still has so many problems. The releases look so bad, guys. Like, oh my god, like, even know where to start. The molds look so bad. It was Vietnam too. The eyelids were so egregious. Some of them just look so cheap looking and just look so unrealistic. Like, we're getting stupid unrealistic at this point. They just did not need to exist. I'm sorry. They look so bad. They look so out of place. It's just so bad. At least is a thing of the past now. But guys, the XRS I just think was a little bit of a flop in general. They got a little better with some lines after the fact that stopped being branded as XRS, but even then, some are not great, but at least some of them were a slight upgrade. We have the fan favorites. This one actually came like amongst the mist of the XRS line. Like, I'm pretty sure this came out before Rocket Racing and maybe Drag Racing. But the fan favorites line was the second time they went for some towny expanded universe centric-is. This one is an amazing sideline. I'm actually going to put it above the Thomasville Racing Legends because I still like the character selections more. Granted, they didn't finish the townies in a very annoying way. Like, the fact that there's no Sally is ridiculous. There's no Red, there's no Lizzie, no Fillmore, but those three got canceled. And this is the most inexcusable one, but Fabulous McQueen with headset got canceled. But that's still, like, something I appreciate about this line is it's expanding universe, but like some of the releases are literally from the movie. That Maddie McGear is from Cars 3's epilogue. It's from the end credits, basically. That's so awesome to get from a fan favorites line. So I did like the concept. I like how they were low grounded. Some of them were just simple townies with some Fabulous McQueen flags or some Dinoco flags. The Ramon was sick. I liked the line. It was actually really nice. Thank God Flo and Luigi and Guido snuck out there too. But the only thing that's stopping it from being elite is because they just didn't finish what they started. No Sally, no Red, Lizzie, Fillmore. If they did all of those, I actually would put this line in elite. But that's the only thing holding it back a little bit. But I still really like it. It's an easy headcanon. It's not gimmicky. It's not goofy. It's within the boundaries, and I like that a lot. So it's going in amazing. Next, we have the endurance racers. These ones kind of color shift, but like the execution of the color shifting on some of them is really poor. Storm, I would probably say, is the best one. McQueen has a nice design overhaul, but I just think some of them don't even look that appealing on base level. I don't know, guys. Endurance racers, I'm not completely fond of either. I'm gonna put the endurance racers in very subpar, actually, because there was no cruise. I feel like this is another line too, where the focus was not there. I think this line should have been the first introduction back to some World Grand Prix racer centric, and not the GRC. But I'm not saying the GRC shouldn't have been. Like, the GRC, I'm glad it took the approach it did. But I think in another world, the endurance races was the first time, and then GRC would have been the second time. I think the endurance races should have been a World Grand Prix thing, like an expansion on the T-Rock. I mean, heck, the McQueen they did for this line was literally the World Grand Prix mold. So yeah, maybe like just the attention and where the focus was really bad with this line. They didn't even do a cruise again. Some of the next gens, again, like the next gens just get so damn repetitive in some of these lines. Like, and you're obviously never gonna finish them because they're next gens, right? And like they don't even like try and focus on some main character. It really is like, you might as well just like put all the characters' names in like a hat and you just draw them, and whatever name comes out is who you do. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't really have a sense of completion to it. It feels so weird. I do like its low groundedness. At least it's not as goofy as Rocket Racing and Drag Racing. They didn't put some like above and beyond feature that just makes them so goofy. You know what I mean? They're still low grounded, so I'll give them that. But the execution could have been a little bit better, and I might even still put this in okay. But for now, I actually think it was just a very subpar line. Also, just one of the more forgettable ones from everything here. Next, we have the NASCAR line. This, I'm gonna put a small disclaimer. I am gonna combine the two times that we have or known about this NASCAR line. So that is the initial debut in 2021 and its revitalization that happened last year and is still ongoing. The NASCAR line was so good at the start. Obviously, the big appeal was that we got some missing sponsors that weren't in Cars 3 as next gens. But I'll give you some flaws. Made in Luigi and Guido are so bad. They look like cheap knockoffs. Storm's design is just really bleh. The Cruise is really cool. That was only in a 5-pack. I mean, the McQueen, both McQueens I like, especially the recent McQueen. That one is sick. And the new one is just like metallic version of the old one. So it's like updates. And they do look a lot better. Like some of those eyes on the initial releases were not good. But NASCAR is an amazing line, but the only thing that's holding it back is, again, I almost feel like this line has wasted potential, especially in the last year. And unfortunately, the last year, if I am counting it, it does put a big stain on the NASCAR line. It's just not good anymore. I hope that they can give it some good new lease of life, but it's not looking great, especially with those accessory 2-packs. There is that rumor of the Dale listing. I would need to believe that to see it with like a picture in the package and everything for next year. But for now, NASCAR is still amazing. I am going to put it, I'm probably going to put it behind the fan favorite still. But I'm willing to put it above the Thomasville Racing Legends just because I think the character selection is still good. But they need to expand on this. You either expand on it in a good way or just kill it off. Like, we don't need this around anymore if you're just going to dilly-daddle with it. Next, we have the Glow Racers, which is still ongoing somehow. This debuted back in 2023. We're like 2 years removed from it dropping in stores. And the fact that it's still around is absolutely ridiculous. This is another very subpar line. This ironically has a very similar problem to the Neon Races, but even worse. They don't change the designs. They are just basically glow versions of their pre-existing designs you see in Cars 3. It's not a design overhaul or something. And some of the releases I just think a little too weird. They didn't have a right focus from the start. I think it would have been a lot better if this line was almost just trying to give you glow versions of things that are in universe, like a glow Mater with the dark lamp, or like the tuners. I know we're getting Wingo, but that should have been from the start. Like maybe some of the ghosts from On the Road that actually glow, that would have been sick. Maybe you can even do a Mater and label it as a trucks thing because he goes into those hallucinations and the whole neon effect. I don't know, there's just some ideas that could have existed in a line that's about glowing, and they just didn't do it. And yeah, I think some of the releases just are too similar, and they're too bland. And this line has lasted for long enough. It's just very subpar. It just doesn't really need to exist anymore. It had its time, and they wasted it. Very subpar in my opinion, but I will still put it above Mud Racers. I'm not gonna put it above Endurance Racers though, because I mean, honestly, these two are very similar to me. You can flip a coin, but I guess for now I'll just put it after Endurance Racers. Because at least Endurance Racers didn't. I mean, Endurance Racers actually stuck around for pretty long too. You know what? Just because the Glow Racers went a little bit out there with like Ramon, I guess, and like Wingo's kind of cool now. I'll slightly put it above Endurance Racers, but that's not really saying much. Still very subpar. We're getting to the final three, guys. We have the GRC. I have two big problems with this line. In the main line, I don't like any expanded universe line in the main line, so you can imagine what I'm about to say for the next two. But GRC did not even finish the World Grand Prix races. That was the big bust of this line. There's no Jeff, Lewis, Nigel, or Rip. That is really pathetic in my opinion, especially when you went on to two different lines that were hybrids and you meshed them. But the GRC was such a cool concept. That McQueen, I think, might be the single best expanded universe McQueen they've done, and I'm willing to go that far. The design is sick. I love how this one is the proper return of the T-Rock almost. It was World Grand Prix racer heavy. I absolutely love that. This is an amazing line, guys. I think I'm going to put it at the top of amazing. I'm just not going to put it at elite because they did not finish what they started. And yeah, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, as per usual, by putting it in the main line. But the Global Racers Cup was such a good concept, and I would have much preferred if they even expanded on that versus starting Race and Rescue bullshit this year. And speaking of Race and Rescue, I might as well just get into this now. Very subpar. Listen, guys, I think over time we're just going to see how bad Race and Rescue has aged, but it's just really rotten right now. This is just the epitome of Cars brain rot at the minute. Cars Race and Rescue just turned out to be absolutely garbage. The execution is horrible. And by the way, this is just considering the rescue cars. This isn't considering the rally racers. That's its own separate thing, as you can see. So this is just the rescue cars. So I'm considering they didn't do Ramon, Flo, Fillmore, not even a Lizzie. But we're getting Kathy Copter, a downscaled Morgan that looks really chubby and stupid, and Adam, who is a character that we only learned his name back in 2023, 2 years ago. So I don't understand why we went this route. I don't understand why it's in the main line, why it's the only thing we're being offered. That was a really retarded decision, and I don't support it in any means. This is how you kill a line. This is how you introduce brain rot and just make a line. Just might as well start shelving the grave, Mattel. Like, you just shovel it, dig it out, just put Race and Rescue in it, and leave us alone. I can't wait for this line to leave, guys. It is absolutely horrible. The execution is absolute dog water. It doesn't work. It does not work in the slightest. Don't even get me started on Kathy Copter. I could do a whole rant about her in her own video. But just and even like some of the designs are just, they're too cutesy. They're too like gimmicky. Some of them are too over the top. I like some of them, I think Sheriff's okay. Luigi and Guido's okay. Sally, like a lot of them just have some cheap things that they cheap out on. Red Scale, I mean, he doesn't even have the chrome detailing. Neither does Sheriff too. Like, ugh. I'm going way too much in detail with Race and Rescue, but bottom line is very subpar line. And finally, we have the Rally Racers, which is not the priority, even though it probably should be. They prioritize the Rescue over the Rally Racers of this hybrid line, but the Rally Racers I think is slightly better, but it still has a lot of problems. I'm gonna put Rally Racers in okay. I'm gonna put them above the Neon Racers, but behind the Carnival Cup. Guys, Rally Races actually had a cool concept a little bit. That Chick Hicks is amazing. I love that Chick Hicks. The McQueen too, Storm looks nice, but the other ones look very lazily done. They feel very uninspiring, uncreative. That Danny just looks like a NASCAR Danny too. That's the worst part about it. Cruz looks like a shadow of her GRC variant. And the whole, like, the character selection doesn't annoy me as much as the Rescue ones, but it's still kind of irksome with some of them. It's like Jeff Gravette, slap in the face, we didn't get a GRC one. Danny, I don't, like, you guys just exposed yourself really hard with that Danny, because you don't have any memory beyond 2020, huh? Because that is basically the NASCAR Danny, and you guys are very pathetic for that. We can tell who's running this line. It's absolute clowns at the minute. And we just have to like live with that, but hope it gets better and hope that next year they wake up. But point being, the Rally Racers are slightly better than the Race and Rescue cars, but again, I just think some of the designs, this one mostly just comes down to execution and of course just being in the main line. The whole thing should have just been a sideline, so at least you can kind of expand. But yeah, the Rally Racers too, very uninspiring. They could have been a little more, they just didn't hit that mark. So they're okay. They're okay. I mean, at least they're not doing something like drag racing and rocket racing. And some characters are cool. Like, Chick is cool. Jeff is cool. It's just like, you know, just still feels like a slap in the face. Could have done a little bit more. Throw a King in there. Throw a Bobby Swift in there, for Christ's sake. You know, and maybe we're talking a little better. But Rally Racers are just an okay average line, too. So this is my entire ranking of all the expanding universe lines Mattel has given us. Let me know what you guys think down below. There's almost like an even amount on all of them. There's no more than 4 on each, so definitely a lot of hit and misses, as you can definitely tell. But yeah, let me know what you think of this whole list down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.